Hey guys, welcome once again to the Raj Kaul Podcast. And I talk about this next guest a lot on my podcast because of the advice he's given me all the time. And there's not many people in the industry who take the time out just to give you random advice, like especially because Diamond and me are well, I'm just giving it away. Who is Diamond and myself? We've never met in person, but what a guy! So
Thank you. Thanks for the intro.
yeah, so yeah, so um, is it all right to call you Diamond or
Yeah, you can call me Diamond. Some people know me as DJ Swami, but
yeah?
Diamond is actually my real name.
So, as I said, this as I was talking to you off the thing, this thing's about musical excellence. But I want to just get for the people who don't know you, or well, who know you in the past,
Yep.
sort of thing. Um, Tell us a bit about yourself in terms of where you're from originally. I think you're from my bend
Yeah,
originally.
I'm from Handsworth, Birmingham. That's where I was born,
Yeah.
and I grew up there, up in teens to my early 20s, and in my teens I was playing in local bands. I mean, Handsworth and Birmingham is very multicultural. Growing up playing, Punjabi music, Indian music, reggae music, rock music. I'm a guitar player, so I started out playing guitar and playing in local bands and that kind of thing, and then went on to record with my cousin, Apache Indian, and ended up producing all these early hits. And then it kind of came a bit more serious.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
So,
where it all
so,
started.
so, just a bit about your childhood. I know we've got another thing which I do with my wife, which is the Bhangra Museum. So we covered a bit some of this on there. So we're not going to touch it
Yeah.
touch too much. But I want to go into the sort of technical side. So when you were a kid, how did you end up picking up the the guitar or any other instruments? Because I know you can play a few other things as well.
I guess I was always interested in music, and there was always a lot of music around. And even if you would go to a wedding back then, or an Indian wedding, or an event, you'd see a live band or that kind of
Mhm.
thing. So it's very much part of Punjabi culture, music and live music, and it's a very inclusive thing. I remember that at my brother's school they had musical instruments because we lived near to his school. So his music teacher used to let him bring like an instrument home sometimes in the evening. Right? And then one time he brought a guitar home and I started playing it and thinking, well, trying to play it. I thought, yeah, I could really get into this. So, a couple of, sessions playing with that and thinking eventually I got my own acoustic guitar and started learning how to play it myself. And the first things I started to learn to play that were easy to play was reggae because all I had to do was go ching, ching, and just ching. And I thought, and when you start playing with other people in a band together, you think, oh, this is nice. It's a good collaborative environment, and it kind of started there. I guess my first entry into music was playing that guitar, which my brother borrowed from the school, and learning how to play some reggae chops.
Is that your brother? Is it Simon?
Simon, yeah, my older brother, yeah,
Yeah.
who was the drummer mainly, and he was playing drums a lot, and I was playing guitar a lot. It's quite a popular combination. If you look at a lot of musicians, there will be like two brothers where one plays the guitar and one plays the drums.
Yeah, yeah. Bros. Was it Bros?
Yeah, Bros Van Halen.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure there's more.
Yeah, there's more. Yeah, interesting. I watched a documentary on Bros and how they got really done over by the label and stuff. Did you ever see that
I
documentary?
I heard about it. I know they, because they were effectively marketed like a boy band, weren't they? So, um, I mean, I don't know if you know this as well, but I was also the guitar player for Boyzone as well.
That's crazy.
Um,
It's,
it's,
it's
did
crazy.
I ever tell you that?
No, you told me so much things, right? But not Boyzone. You told me about Robbie Williams last time I spoke.
Yeah, bro. So Robbie was on tour with us with Boyzone, so I used to, perform with Robbie and with Boyzone and Peter Andre. But I know this Boyzone documentary has come out on Sky, but I haven't seen it yet. I thought people saying I better watch it because I might be in it somewhere. So
It's worth a watch. I mean, it's a bit. So we're digressing now, but it's a bit, it's really sad how they were stripped of everything. They had these like sports cars and everything, but the deal they had with the label, they would just take everything was taken off them because they didn't want to do
Oh
music.
gosh, oh yeah. I mean, I was quite close with them at the time because we would tour together, and but I could see they were going through a lot of friction with the management, and
Yeah,
that's the hard part about this music industry. You say, how did you start as a kid and that? You start these things for love and because you love playing an instrument, but at some point it turns into a business, and then it's a different set of emotions, to deal with. I used to like my guitar there, when I first got my first guitar, I'd clean it and look after it and polish it. And I mean, I still look after them, but it's a tool for my work.
yeah.
And there was a transition point where it's not like, oh, wow, play instruments. It's like, these are my tools and this is my job.
How do you keep that passion going? Like, when it
I
turns to,
do. Yeah, that's a great question. That how do you keep the passion going? I think the passion only goes out if you become a very negative person because of the
yeah,
industry. I
yeah,
think this industry takes no prisoners and it will eat you alive. And it's not for the faint-hearted. It's a very tough industry to be involved in. Um, but the passion has to come by keeping that positive attitude of why you want to do music in the first place.
mm,
And this is what I've always maintained in my mind. I want to make music because I want to help people. I want people to be happy. I want people to figure out where they come from and who they are and where they belong. And, the songs that I've always been involved in, as you know, have a sense of like optimism or pushing some boundaries about who we are as people, and that's so that other people will see us not in a stereotypical way, in a way in which we can achieve great things and be visionary as well. And so my mental attitude is that, have a positive mindset about it, even when it's difficult.
Hi guys, this is Raj Kaul. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. If you want to support the rest of my music, if you could go and check me out on Spotify, on Apple Music, and add my songs to your playlist if you like them. Thank you. Because like you guys, when you were did Apache stuff, you were way ahead of the game, way ahead of the game. No one was doing that, and that's why that was like I think that was one of my first cassettes I had when I was a kid. Yeah, so that
Just
was way.
like movie over India and Chalk there and all of that.
Yeah, those, yeah, yeah. I remember my cousin Suki. He had a hi-fi at that time in the stacked hi-fis, and this was
Yeah,
a silver one. It's really old, and they had that. They had a jock there playing on there. What's this?
yeah.
Yeah,
Imagine it sounded quite I don't know, just like different from everything else, but because those records were made, I said to you, like in a family environment
yeah,
within what goes on inside your own family home and stuff, you're just having a laugh and fun. That was just basically me, Stephen Apache, and my brother Simon just having a laugh, and just we recorded it. But there's such an honesty and innocence to it. There was no great like master plan with loads of like strategic marketing or anything. We were just doing what we grew up on and recorded it. And I think that's what resonated with people. They heard the honesty in it. We weren't trying to be something. We were
no,
just doing something and having fun doing it. Because if you listen to the lyrics in Choc There and Movie Owen, it's all about growing up and trying to like fit in with the surroundings,
yeah.
and we're Indian and
Well,
this like
it spoke to us because I was from Handsworth as well. So even though I was a kid,
yeah.
I sort of I could relate to all those lyrics.
Yeah, yeah, you
I
would
mean,
do, yeah. Growing up
yeah,
in Handsworth would be like, you're like the day one people. You're just like, we know,
exactly,
you know, this
exactly. Yeah.
these things are just like normal everyday life to us, and You know what? That's something also very special growing up in Handsworth compared to everywhere else. I mean, I've lived in London for the past 20 odd years, and I still know that there's no place I would want to have had my musical education other than Handsworth, where it was, such rooted in authenticity, that it was the perfect place to be. Because, like I said, I grew up on reggae music, Indian music, and Birmingham is the home of rock music as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's like you get the best of all three.
Mm. And not many people like sort of, especially in the Bhangra industry. Not
Yeah,
many people. I don't know whether they not acknowledge it or they're not aware of how big the rock scene was here in Birmingham.
massive. Well, Ozzy Osbourne. I mean, heavy metal was
Exactly.
invented in
Yeah.
Birmingham.
Yeah.
Um, and when I was about 12 or 14, obviously I discovered the guitar shops in Birmingham. They used to on Snow Hill. There used to be musical exchanges on the corner as you were going into town. And I used to get the bus there from school and go and sit in there in my school uniform because I got to know the guys in there and they would let you play the guitars in there. And they would be like vintage Gibson guitars and everything, but they cost a fortune now. But back then, there was sawdust on the floor and you could pick up a guitar and I'd be sitting there in my school uniform playing the guitar and I'd look around and then Tony Iommi would walk in from Black Sabbath or Dave Hill from the band Slade and I was like, wow, these guys
Crazy.
were legends.
That's crazy.
Still are legends. They are legends.
Yeah,
I'd
of
see
course
them.
they
I'd
are.
think, I want to be like them.
Yeah, that's crazy. But
So yeah, we have everything in Birmingham. Everything was accessible, and also people were always super friendly about music. Music was the common language where you would communicate with other cultures.
yeah, absolutely. And like you'd hear like sort of reggae bass lines
Yeah,
with Bhangra. Like what happened? What I remember quite fondly, walking Soho Road, you had Dupatta Tera Satarang remixed with the with the reggae
yeah,
bass line
I
stuff.
like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I like that. Yeah. I mean, and there were a lot of people. There were a lot of key people in Birmingham who I had a lot of respect for. When Mick St. Clair set up his studio, and there were a couple of guys working there. One in particular, Nils Edstrom. I don't know if you know Nils. He was the engineer and one of the producers at Mick's studio, and he did that Satrong record, and I learned a lot from him because he was like experienced in recording and with multi tracks and how to work with that. And he lectures in music at South Birmingham College now, and he's been a lifelong friend. I've even taken him on tour with me to America and
really? Wow.
places to do the front of house sound, and when I toured Punjab Tronics over there. So I have some lifelong friends who taught me the ropes of the music industry who are from Birmingham. I mean, the sad thing is that unfortunately, a lot of people learn their skills in Birmingham, but then they leave, me included, I had to leave because I was getting involved more in DJing and
Yeah.
working in London and stuff. And it would be nice if, I mean, I do come back a lot, but it would be nice if the scene could grow within Birmingham as well.
Yeah. Things are trying to move here. There's things moving, but it's I think it's like one job. The problem is, when you were around, you had so many different genres and so many different flavors. Now it's just one type of Punjabi music you get here. If that
Yeah,
makes any sense, you
yeah,
know what I mean? Like by Punjabi music, I mean like a Punjabi spoken, not
yeah,
necessarily the fusion stuff. Like you have like uh almost like the Jazzy B, Kuldeep Manak style. That's
yeah.
it. That's all you've got at the moment. So
Well, I think, Punjabi music and indie music has moved on. I mean, globally, if you look at where Diljit is or Karan Aujla and AP Dylan and all of this thing that's happening, and it's it's moved into like a different dimension now where the sounds don't exist necessarily within the music, but the culture is represented in the lyrics and
yeah, yeah,
and the way that's being communicated and I know that a lot of the Birmingham, Bhangra Punjabi scene is associated with the legacy sound of all the
yes,
instruments. It's like that's not so prevalent in the music anymore, which
no,
is, you know, um, that, even for me, it's just like, they to make a song today that's got a Punjabi hit quality about it, it might not necessarily need the Dawl on it. And even for me, that's a tough one. And you have to make these decisions about what's appealing now to the next generation. And there are some good artists in Birmingham who are trying these new things and
Yeah,
out. And I think that is a way is a way forward. There's other ways to represent our culture than just through the instruments as
yeah.
well. And if this is what the public wants, we've got to find ways to engage that as well.
Absolutely, because you got to meet them, which is what you guys did with Apache, and your music. Sorry, is you met people at where they're at the moment.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like where they were. If the people listen to like sort of, uh, uh, I remember when Apache's Jack Day came out. If I remember correctly, I was very young then. So,
Yeah.
Vanilla Ice was out. I think Ice Ice Baby, roughly around that time. And I could be wrong, but
Yeah, and probably, yeah, around that time.
yeah. So I've got this memory of like Apache. Like me listen to Vanilla Ice, then listen to Apache. That's like,
Yeah.
yeah. It's I could relate to it.
We never really had rappers from our community, did we?
No, no, no.
And if you look at the whole of the scene, Indian scene now, it's all rappers, and
Yeah,
he really set a precedent there, and we weren't using many Indian sounds, only where we wanted to, and we felt like they would fit and they needed to be. Um, so it it was very much a natural progression. I think that's so important to go with your instinct of what you feel right to do. You don't have to always be like thinking about your culture up front. You got to think about who you are as the main consideration. And if your day-to-day life is being British and being Indian and listening to this and listening to that, then that should be your music,
yeah,
because that's true representation of who you are. I mean, if you're trying to be proper Punjabi in what you do, you got an uphill struggle because you got artists in Punjab who are just, way ahead of you in that
yeah,
game.
really, yeah. And what is being Punjabi now? Because if you go in India, if you go Punjab in India, they're just trap beats.
Yeah.
Every song is a trap beat song there,
Yeah,
so yeah,
yeah, pretty much so. I think, they pick up on different trends and things that are happening, and there was, grime and other stuff, and now you probably, realize that even in India and for the younger generation who are making Punjabi influenced music, they're back on the two-step garage thing.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so now, like,
Back, yeah,
people are pulling out my pure garage records from the early 2000s, and playing them and wanting to do this and do that, and which is great. Um, Things do go in full circle. Um, I think the thing for me that's exciting about Punjabi music is the energy, and that's what I always look for.
yeah.
Sometimes when the songs get a bit too kind of slow and stuff like that, and my attention span drifts, but
Mm. But
I
there's a
always,
whole genre, isn't it? It's called senti music. It's
yeah,
come from sentimental music. Sort
yeah.
of that's a whole like AP Dillon and all that. They'll be classed as senti music.
Yeah, I mean, if you look, I mean, that whole scene has been driven by, a certain few artists
Yeah,
who from India who've gone to Canada,
yeah,
and there's a lot of development happening in India to capitalize on that from the major labels as well.
yeah,
Some of them have referred to it as I-pop now. We had K-pop, and now they're calling it I-pop as Indian pop. I hope that Indian music can go as big as K-pop and be the next big thing. That would be really, really great. But I think there needs to be more English content because not everybody understands the language. You
yeah,
start getting too deep into the verses and you don't understand Punjabi and that, then you're kind of lost.
yeah,
So that's and that's like you said, that's we always were singing in English with Apache stuff and then putting some Punjabi in there
yeah.
as reference points. Yeah, that was way ahead of its time. Now I look back, I realize how ahead of its time it was.
It's phenomenal,
And,
phenomenal.
and I tell you, there was one incident that happened because everybody wanted to sign him, all the major labels, they were all knocking on my mum and dad's door, sending like representatives and stuff. And I remember we had a meeting with who Pete Tong is.
Yeah. Pete Tong was one of the biggest dance.
Yeah, so Pete Tong invited us there. He wanted to sign him. So I'm sitting there with my brother in his office in London Records in London, and then he says, "So how did you come up with the concept of Apache Indian?" And we were like really confused. And then I said to him, "What concept? There's no concept. This is who we are. Uh, this is all we know." He actually thought we'd come up with a calculated plan to mix reggae with some Indian, because there's a strategic target market here and blah blah.
Yeah.
Like what? So that's kind of probably how naive we were as well. But shows in the music, then the naivety is the beauty of it. It's kind of, we're just doing our thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's what matters most with any artist at any point in development in their career. It's like the honesty of what you do. It's like, don't try and be someone else, because that seat's already taken. Do your thing.
Absolutely.
And stay in your expert niche of whatever that complexity of you is.
Okay, we've got this. It's my own fault. I don't think we've got distracted in terms of possibly about your music, but it's all cool. It's a nice informal chat, and so I like it. So back to your guitar playing. Let's go back a bit. When you used to come home, like you've got your guitar. I remember you telling me before that you were self-taught.
Yeah, self-taught. Yeah.
What was the process behind being self-taught? Like if I pick the guitar up, I've got a guitar here. First I'm not going to know what I'm doing. Did you get a book or?
Yeah. I mean, I would. There was no YouTube then, obviously. So, a few things. I would watch a lot of music on TV, record stuff on video, and pause it and see where people had their hands and what they're doing. I would buy books. I did do music at school as well, so I thought it's important to understand scales and chords and keys and everything. But what interested me was the point of where Western music crossed over with Indian music, because when I was 14, my dad bought me a sitar from India.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. It took about 2 months to arrive, like a wooden crate. But he that was very nice of him. They got me a sitar. So I bought this book called written by Ravi Shankar, called My Music, My Life.
Mm-hmm.
And then half the book is like his life story, about how he grew up, and then the other half of the book is how to play the sitar. So I studied that as well. And then I made a little book where I used to write down all the Western scales, and I used to write down the rags next to them. I say, oh, that one is that one, and that one is that one. So I would kind of understand both at the same time, and that would be a way of me discovering music, and from being born here but being Indian. I guess you could say like it's a bit like a journey to discover your identity.
Yeah.
I thought I'd do it through music. Some people do it through art, some people do it through sport, some people do it through fashion. I just happened to do it through music, and I thought, well, right now I kind of understand this. Let me try and bring those elements together in the kind of music that I make. That's uniquely me, and that's what I was doing. And obviously, Apache was doing that in his own way as well. I could, there were other artists emerging from the scene. As you know, I became good friends with Taz, who was Johnny Z back then, and he was doing his thing, mixing the whole kind of Michael Jackson thing with Indian stuff. And I was at great admiration for people who push the boundaries of culture and music.
Hi guys, this is Raj Kaul. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. If you want to support the rest of my music, if you could go and check me out on Spotify, on Apple Music, and add my songs to your playlists if you like them. Thank you.
Yeah, and if I was to listen to things that were pure and purely folk or purely classical, or I would think, well, what parts of that would I incorporate in my style, and what can I learn from that? Mm,
Did you ever get into the rag side of it? Because it gets quite like, I've studied a little bit of it. I'm
yeah.
not an expert by any means, but um, uh, did you ever get into the rag side of it and the modes and stuff?
Yeah, yeah, very much so. Like I said, I'm a trained guitar player, and I toured as a musician playing guitar. Yeah, I'm very deep into guitar. I was studying guitar like 5, 6 hours a day at one point. Um, and it's that's my reference point for music. Other people are pianists, other people, are violinists. The guitar is my go-to instrument if people want to write a song with me,
Yeah.
or I want to write a piece of music, or I hear a piece of music and I'm going to figure it out. I will go to the guitar. That's my. I think it's really important, even for young musicians starting out, or artists or singers, learn an instrument to a certain point.
Mhm.
If you're a singer, you need to know your range. You need to know where you sit
Yeah.
on, whether it's on the harmonium or the piano or the guitar. You need to know what your restrictions are, and you need to know some basic chords, or the kind of chords that complement your voice. And um, th these things are really important. I'm always telling new singers and new artists, get a keyboard, or guitar if you prefer. Learn something basic that can accompany you to develop. Um, mm,
I mean,
I'm not a singer as such, but I write songs, and I will put the ideas down as well.
for singing, like sort of, I'd even recommend just getting a digital tambura. You
Yep.
sing, isn't it? Yeah, and then
Yeah, yeah. I have people artists who do that. They tell me they do that, or they
yeah,
go on YouTube and they find the tempura
yeah,
or the
and you can
or the
sing.
pad sound and they sing over that.
Yeah, start experimenting with your pitch, as you were saying, your range, and from there you can find your range, can't you? Like,
Yep.
okay, so I'm on C sharp at the moment, which is what you practice on anyway. But then you can start experimenting with
Well,
different
but the
keys.
reason why that's important is because a lot of people, they'll start singing, they'll find like the tempura drone or the one chord, and they'll start singing the verse, right? And they think, oh, I sound great. And by the time they get to the chorus, it's too high for them to sing. And they just think, and they should have
Especially with
realized
Gwali's,
that at the beginning.
especially with Gwali's.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gwali's. That's oh gosh, like when I practice Gwali's, I'm practicing a Gwali now, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm belting the chorus out, and the verse bit kicks in. I think, no, this is way too high.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Especially the stuff ones, and it's all
find the highest part of the song and just put it just in the comfortable range, and then work backwards from there.
yeah.
And let's make sure the verse isn't too low. I mean,
That's
that's always been a problem with the duets. Have you noticed in Indian, in Bollywood, or even in the folk stuff? They would always put the key of the song in the in the dominant male's range, which is
yes,
why the woman's voice is so high.
yeah, absolutely. The
It's-
key song. Have you seen that? Remember that song from Koila?
which one?
Uh, Badan juda
Yeah,
hota.
right. Yes.
That's
Yeah.
perfect example of that.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
woman's voice is so high. It's like,
Yeah. Respect to be able to sing that high. It's
yeah,
amazing. But I think it's for the Western ear, that's kind of quite hard to listen to, because the male's voice is down
yeah,
here, and then they suddenly like really super
yeah,
high. For the
exactly. Yeah.
women's voice is like, despite the fact that they might be playing loads of like quarter tones and modal stuff as well. Yeah, so
So we're almost done. We're almost done a half an hour.
it's okay. I'm good for another 10 minutes or so.
That's fine. Yeah, I'll keep you. I'll
Yeah.
keep you 10 minutes.
Any specific
Let's move on.
questions you wanted to ask me?
What's that? Sorry.
Was there any specific questions that you noted that you wanted to ask me?
No, do you know what? I'm going to be honest. I do this free because I just love chatting to musicians like yourself, and as you can see, I'm just chatting as if we were at the pub. So,
When you mentioned the rags, I was going to say there's a song that I did with a classically trained female artist. She's from London, Indian artist called Unati Dasgupta. And we did a song together, which is actually the theme tune on the Netflix show Indian Matchmaking.
really?
It's
Wow.
called Rise. But we're talking about rags. I produced and co-wrote a song with her called Delhi Yard Aati Hai, which is on Buddha Bar, the Buddha Bar compilation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But if you listen to that, I wrote all the music in a rag, and I'm actually playing all the guitar solos on a 12-string acoustic in that rag as well. I can't remember what rag it was. So you can listen to that, and your listeners could listen to that and see, how I'm approaching rags
Um,
with
did you
classical singers.
did you do when you were doing the rags? Because like what the thing I found really hard to get my head around rags, because you've got like your scales
Yep,
in and then the actual the Indian equivalent to that is tarts,
yep,
the scale, but rag
yep.
it's a different thing in terms
Yeah,
of
the easiest way I've found to understand playing in a particular rag. It's like, okay, this is like playing in the A minor scale, but I'm not allowed to play the fourth note ever.
yeah, exactly that, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so that's kind of messing with my brain, but I'll take on that challenge. So whenever I'm soloing, I'm not allowed to play that note. So
And when you're ascending is different, and when
yeah,
you're descending is different, and then you got
yeah,
to play these patterns and notes.
yeah,
Like ni, like it was like ni re sa. It has to be ni re sa. It can't be
exactly.
like straight and stuff.
Yeah, it's like jazz, really. And
Yeah.
I know I was brought up in this country to think with a Western mindset. So I have to find the nearest equivalent of Western music that I can relate it to. It might be, oh, it's the Dorian mode or the Phrygian mode or there's that rag, but you're not allowed to play that note. Da, 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 and I just go with that in my mind because I learnt guitar first. So,
That's
that's
phenomenal. Honestly, that's phenomenal.
that's how I figure it out. Um, yeah, I mean, it's a different world when you come and getting onto like tabla cycles and stuff like that. And
Yeah, I can just about do a Dean Dahl, which is the 16 one, and
well, that's an interesting thing, like it's interesting how all of Western pop music is 4/4, but
yeah.
then a big rhythm for us, that would get a crowd is the Dundia or 3/4, dun kataka kataka kataka, like it's a massive beat, but they don't really have it in the West, do they?
No, I
Popular
mean,
music.
I'm doing at the moment. I was practice because when you practice your polte, the vocal exercises,
Yeah.
you because the patterns land. There might be like a five a five note pattern, so that'll be like Japtal, which is a 10 beat cycle,
Yeah.
and then you've got like a 7 beat cycle, which is I think no 6 beat cycle, Dadra, I think you pronounce the name, but yeah, so it's quite interesting what you're saying. Yeah,
Yeah, so like my approach is whatever I can understand, and I will work with that, and I'll apply my logic to that, and it might come out slightly differently, but I guess that's the beauty of being uniquely you. And as I said earlier, I said be the expert in the niche in the way
yeah.
what you are. Your DNA is uniquely you. Let that be your music. That's what I think. I'm inspired by a lot of great artists and even certain Indian artists. There was a guitar player called Brij Bhushan Kabra. I don't know if you know. There's
No.
there's an album called Call of the Valley, an Indian classical album, which is a big influence on me. I think it's Brij Bhushan Kabra, Shiv Kumar Sharma on the santoor, and Hari Prasad on the flute.
I
And
know Hari Prasad, yeah.
yeah, so in fact, I I produced Rakesh, his nephew. Is it his nephew, Rakesh Chireja? Because he featured on the Shania Twain album. But working with these kinds of musicians, but at the same time, I'm listening to Jimi Hendrix, I'm listening to, Van Halen, I'm listening
Yeah.
to all of this other Western stuff and jazz stuff as well as R&B and soul and the big producers and a lot of hip hop. I grew up on a lot of 90s hip hop, and
Yeah, you would in Handsworth, innit?
yeah, but then listening to 90s hip hop, that I'd listen to those records and I think, oh, what did they sample? And then I started discovering all the 70s
Yes.
music
Yes.
as well. So that's kind of all of these things. That's the thing about music, isn't it? It's infinite. You'll never get bored of it because one pathway leads you to another, to another, to another.
We haven't even touched like base on your production side yet, and we've only got a few minutes left. So, how did you get into the production part? Just
Okay, so the first band that I ever played in, we ended up signing to a record to Warner's record label, and I was the guitar player in the band, and I was 18 at the time. And when we got to the studio, I realized that the person at the mixing desk, the producer, had the control over the whole sound. This was at UB40 studio. And I was, playing the guitar, and then we would record everything. And I realized he can mute me out if he wants to. He could turn me to put me in the background. I thought, you know what? I should learn that job because that seems to be the person in control. So from the time I spent in that band, saved up some money. Me and my brother saved up some money, and we built a little recording studio in my mom and dad's garage. And then, with a lot of help from Nils, who I mentioned earlier, Nils Edstrom, who had a studio in his house around the corner, and he was a bit more of an expert in all these things. We used to go and ask him, "How do you do this? How do you work with that? And how do you mix it? How does the compressor work? And gain and everything." And just learning how to make music on our own. And around that time, the Atari computer had come out, and you could use MIDI on it to plug into another keyboard, and got a little 8-track. And then it wasn't long after that we started recording with Apache, and all of that was originally done like in the home studio, just on a little 8-track, home studio setup. So it progressed from there, really, just kind of learning. As I said, there was no YouTube. There were magazines, and there were things on TV occasionally if you managed to like video record them, and figure things out. But yeah, it's crazy really, because now you can just go on YouTube. You
Yeah,
can look up a particular song and slow it down, and there'll be somebody teaching you how to play it.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I think the thing with the YouTube, I find there's too much information, and sometimes you're looking for something, and it's just you get so much information, you can't find that specific thing that you want with YouTube. That's what I find, at least.
yeah,
Whereas I've got a
or the
piano teacher,
choice.
so I've got a piano teacher, and I find the piano teacher far better than anything on YouTube because she sits with me and does it.
Well, that human connection is super important. It's missing and with a lot. I work with a lot of younger artists and help them strategically move forward because they don't. The opportunities are different now, and there is too much information out there, and sometimes they get a bit lost in it all. And they need that one-to-one human connection to say, you should try this, you should try that when you're in the room. Collaborate. Don't just put your headphones on and make beats on your own. Just collaborate with the people in the room and share your ideas. And that's teamwork is everything. That's what's important, and I think we need more of that teamwork to make great music. Nobody's going to make amazing records just on their own, unless you're Prince or someone like that.
Absolutely. Don, I'm gonna cut it short. As I said, the motto of the podcast is musical excellence in the pursuit of musical excellence. What advice would you give before we finish to up and coming musicians? How should they pursue musical excellence?
I think the way to pursue musical excellence is know what your unique skill set is, whether you're a singer, whether you're a guitar player or whatever, and pursue that. And it's not just about having the greatness of what you do, it's about how you communicate that with other people to work with. You're never going to do all of this stuff on your own. So as well as being, learning your craft as a singer, learn some music theory, but learn how to communicate to do the things that you can't do with other people who you trust, who give out positive energy and people you can work with. That's how you get things done in this world. It's not about trying to be, a master of the universe from your own computer. You have to know how to communicate with other people to do the things that you cannot do, but stay true to your vision and whatever your expert niche is. That's how you'll succeed.
Phenomenal, guys. That was Diamond. Any last words before we cut off?
Yeah, I think it's important for people to go out of their comfort zone as well, try and experience things which might not be the usual things that you do or the usual things you listen to for inspiration, because there's a whole world out there of possibilities. And the reason why we do music is we want to create something that's never been heard before. So always go out of your comfort zone as well, and there's always something to learn from something new.
Brilliant. So thank you so much, Diamond, for coming on the podcast. It's been phenomenal again. And honestly, if you're ever down Birmingham, we've got to link up this time.
Yeah, I do like Birmingham, and especially there's a trend happening now here in London of Desi pubs, and it's like, oh yeah, it's like original Desi pubs are in Birmingham, mate.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
I think
So we'll have to do that
now,
one. I'm sure you know where they are. We'll have to do that one time.
Yeah, absolutely. Go for a mixed grill and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So guys, I'm gonna stop recording. We'll carry on the conversation just after. So guys, that's Diamond, DJ Swami. Where can we catch you?
Yeah, well, people can see me online, DJ Swami, on all the socials, and they can also go to my website, diamondduggal.com, and they can even listen to some of my music, links there on Spotify. Sometimes there's music that people don't know I've produced that is popular in the West, which is Western music, but you'll be able to see which songs I've produced and which kind of artists I work with. So yeah, they can find me in both.
Fantastic. I do want to mention one last thing, which I bigged you up on something on it was on TikTok, and someone was saying, look, this is someone's track, an Indian track came on the new FIFA game. It was, and I says, and I said, this is the first time when a Punjabi track's come on one of those tracks. I said, that's not true.
Says, no, it's not true.
I've spoken to Diamond, and his track was on. Was it World Cup 2006 or something?
FIFA World Cup 2006, Desi Rock. Yeah.
There you go, guys. Yeah,
I've never had so many messages from kids from like Brazil. I won the World Cup to your song.
Yeah, so we got to do this again because like I've only just touched on stuff and I've rushed through it. So we'll do a part two if you wouldn't mind at some point.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Or I'm always open to questions, and if people want to ask me questions about anything I've said, then I'm always happy to answer.
So I just want to say one thing: if you want a part two, send me the questions that you want me to ask Diamond and
yeah, and I'm always happy to give advice to upcoming singers and artists and pathways for them to move forward with what they want to do.
And that is 100% true. Diamond's not just saying that because I've rang him out of the blue and he's given me a half an hour masterclass in sync licensing. So that's Diamond for you. And I will never forget that. I'd always say that to people.
Well, there's and I can always tell them, as I do, there's a lot of societies we have in this country, from PRS to the IVAs to the BPI to the Musicians Union. All of this information, and the people are there to talk to. So we're lucky to have that here.
Fantastic. So we carried on a bit over. So thank you guys, and catch you next time on the Raj Kaul Podcast. God bless you.